the New York Yankees were finally back in the World Series, and after a disappointed shot in the foot World Series, because they realistically could have won if they didn't shoot themselves in the foot, the Yankees now had to focus on signing Juan Soto. And then he went and crossed the bridge and went to Queens. And honestly, so glad we didn't sign him, because if we did, that means we would have gave him a suite and would have gave him everything he would have wanted. And I'm so glad we didn't sign him and give him what he wanted. And then we went out and got Max Fried, Devin Williams, Cody Bellinger, Paul Goldschmidt, but still great moves that improved the team so much more than just getting Juan Soto. Think about it. All the money that they would have spent on Juan Soto, they spent on like 4 guys. They went out there and made moves that actually increased the depth of the team, which everybody has been saying, oh, you have no depth. That's why you're not winning a World Series. You don't have depth. And guess what? We went out there, we got depth, but yet people are still hating. And people are still saying that this Yankee team isn't good enough. And while I agree, there are still some holes that need to be plugged. Third base needs to be addressed 1,000%. You have Josh Chisholm, but you really want him at second, not third. He plays a better second base, and that's no discredit to Jazz. He played phenomenal third base compared to what we thought he might have played. I mean, what did we really expect out of a guy that's been playing second base his entire career pretty much, or the outfield for that matter? So Jazz, great job at third base, but it's time to put you at second, and that's the reason why we got you, and that's the reason why we got rid of Gleyber Torres. You have LeMahieu. I'd rather drink bleach than see LeMahieu play third or take another at-bat. And then you have Oswaldo Cabrera, you have Peraza. Those are some options, but you never know what you're going to really get with them. They could be really hot and then go really cold. We saw that with Oswaldo. He started off really hot, and it felt like he was going to be a major player, but it didn't end up happening. So, realistically, could you go out there and get Bergman? Yeah, but do you really want to mess up the chemistry of the team? Do you really want to get a guy from Houston that was one of the main pieces to their teams? It's me personally wouldn't get him. But Cashman, he might not care. He might just go and grab him. But I feel like that's like signing Kevin Youkilis. Like, don't get me wrong, Bregman, he's a great player. Definitely not Kevin Youkilis. At the time when we signed Kevin Youkilis, he was awful. But regardless, I think that's one of the biggest holes in this team. I think also first base, you kind of have to address it after this year. Goldschmidt, great improvement. Don't get me wrong. I don't think he's going to be better than Rizzo offensively. I don't expect much from Goldschmidt. What I expect is great defense. That's what I'm hoping. That's what I'm expecting. I'm expecting his experience to come in. And hey, if he has a great offensive year, which I'm expecting maybe 250, 260 at best case scenario, 20 home runs, 70 RBIs. If he could deliver that, more than happy with that. Yes, I just switched shirts. It's not the next day, but I just switched shirts. I'm sweating in that sweatshirt. But I think that's really all you have to address. Like, again, first base really isn't a problem. Shortstop, you have Volpe. Second base, you have Jazz. Third base is the question. Catcher, you have Wells. When you're looking at your rotation, your bullpen, you're perfect. You're golden there. You look at your outfield, you're golden there. I think this team just has that one hole to fill. And I think, realistically, it's going to be Oswaldo. I think Yankee fans are thinking way too far into it. They're not going to trade for Arenado. They're not going to trade Arenado. I can never say his name right. They're not going to trade for Nolan Arenado. They're not going to trade for any third basemen out there. The most absurd one, honestly, and I wish this would happen, but the biggest one I could see is probably Vladdy. But again, they're focusing on this year, and they're focusing on him next year when he hits free agency. They're going to focus on him during the offseason. So why trade for him? Let him walk in free agency and then go get him. Now, if you could get him for half a year, half a year compared to 0 years is better. Like, obviously. But again, he's stated in the past he doesn't want to play for the Yankees, but who knows? You never know. Maybe he has a career year with the Yankees. Maybe he likes it here. And he stays. But then again, we went with the same thing with Soto. He loved, I love the Bronx. And then bro goes to Queens. Like, dude, what are we doing? So I think the Yankees are just going to stay in-house. Realistically, do you see them getting anybody? Like, you really think they're going to trade for Nolan Arenado, take on his contract, which isn't big in the grand scheme of things. Again, it's the New York Yankees. But then again, they have Hal complaining like, our budget's too high. Like, so I don't see it happening. I think they're just going to solve it in-house. We're going to be unhappy, but eventually we'll get over it because this team is stacked to the gills and we can run the AL. It's the NL side I'm worried about. Now, if we're looking at the negatives and positives of this team, obviously the biggest positive is the pitching. Like, simple as that. is the pitching. The pitching has gotten so much better with adding Max Fried and Devin Williams. I think that's the biggest positive to it. I think, honestly, you'll look at the league, second best rotation in baseball, 100%. Another positive is that you don't have Juan Soto clogging up your payroll. You don't have him clogging up the payroll. And not only that, but it doesn't create tension in the locker room, because now you would have paid that guy 700 something mil. Like, that would have been such a big, and a lot of people are going to say, well, oh, but that doesn't matter. It's just about base. No, money matters, because now these guys are in the same room together. Now a guy like Stanton and Cole and Judge, even though they seem like humble guys and it looks like contracts don't matter to them, it will. Like, in the grand scheme of things, when you have your captain making 360 and then you have this guy making 760 million, it's a huge difference. It creates tension in the locker room. I'm honestly glad that we didn't get Soto for a multitude of reasons. The biggest negative to this team, I think, is honestly fundamentals. We saw it in the World Series. We saw them choke time and time again. Again, we could look back at the tape. You could look at Nestor Cortez giving up that home run in Game 1. You could look at Game 5. Game 5 was such a screw. Like, it was every single flaw for the Yankees coming to light. Like, literally every flaw we had throughout the season, literally coming together in one game, just absolutely destroying the Yankees. Fundamentals and defense are the biggest weaknesses, but, like, again, you're moving Jazz back to second, a natural position for him. You move a guy like Oswaldo, he can play third base pretty well. A guy I really wanted was Willie Adames, where I was like, you can move him to third base. He's a pretty good defender. You can move him to third. You have Jazz at second, Volpe at short, right? You can move around with him. But obviously he went to San Francisco, which, whatever. I'm not mad at. I'm not too crazy mad at. An hour ago or 2 hours ago at this point, it was announced that Roki Sasaki won't be signing with the Yankees, so that's another miss. But then again, you're not really too worried about that. Your rotation looks great. Garrett Cole, you have Rodon, you have Fried, you have Heel, and then you have a multitude of options. Obviously, they're trying to move around Stroman, but you have options here. You can go with Schmidt there. Like, you have some options. Obviously, they traded Cortez, so he's not an option, but you have options to go for your fifth guy. I think this team can only fail if they shoot themselves in the foot. And, I mean, we might as well just get right into the positives and the negatives of this team and what their potential could be. Now, let's take a look at the floor of this team. The floor, obviously, is missing the playoffs, but even then, I don't think that team is 2023 bad. I really don't. I think this team's floor is slightly missing the playoffs. I'm talking like a game or two. Like, I'm talking like losing like a game back in like August, right, is going to kill that, right? I'm talking about very, where did these cobwebs? So like I was saying, I think this team's floor is pretty much barely missing the playoffs. I think that's the worst this team could get. The obvious potential through the roof, I mean, is World Series. This team is very much capable. I don't think there are many teams that are a threat but Baltimore and Cleveland. Now, a lot of people are saying, oh, the Yankees, they're going to run it back. They're going to run it back. They run the AL. We do this. That's not the case, guys. You have to remember, Baltimore's still a young team, and now they're a year older. They have more experience. They are getting better. You can't tell me that Baltimore is not a bigger threat. That was such a poor sentence, but you can't tell me that they're not a bigger threat than they were last year, because last year they were handing it to us. They have our number now. It's not like 2019 where they only beat us once. No, this team has our number. So the Yankees need to go out there and run Baltimore like they used to. All right, like, Baltimore is such a big threat now. They have young talent, and not only that, they're young and they're hungry because they haven't had success yet. They haven't been able to win in the playoffs. So what do you think they're going to do in 2025? They are going to go out there and play like their lives depend on it. They're going to play like their lives are on the line. I'm telling you this right now. Baltimore is the biggest threat to the Yankees' postseason hopes. They are the biggest threat. And remember, if it wasn't for the Yankees getting hot and Baltimore going cold, that division out of it. We would have been completely out of it. I'm sorry for hitting the mic. We would have been completely out of it. Baltimore would have won that division. They would have been the ones facing, the Royals or whatever, if you want to put it in this sort of context, we would have been playing the Royals. We would have been playing them once we beat the Royals, and therefore probably eliminated. Like, when people say we had an easy route to the championship, I kind of agree. Like, the Guardians, that was tough. Don't get me wrong. You look at these, if you look at the context of the situation, you look at the box scores, it wasn't easy because every game was tightly contested. So, do I agree with that? Kind of. I get it. The Royals, not tough. The Guardians, not that tough. When you look at the Dodgers, who have to play the Mets, the Grimace Shake Mets, the Hawk Tua Mets, and then you had the Padres, which were one of the best teams in the league, and I was actually more afraid of the Padres than the Dodgers. Honestly, the Dodgers had a tougher road, and then they got to face the Yankees, which just, again, ran out of gas, shot themselves in the foot. So, again, I think what I'm saying to say all this is that the Yankees' ceiling is the World Series, but not winning. It's just I think their ceiling is making the World Series. I can't say with confidence this team is going to win the World Series. I think they're better than last year, but if they can't prove to, conquer the fundamentals, like, it's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. But if we know anything, baseball is never about numbers. It's never about players. It's never about any of that. It's always about the game and when it's played. And when you talk about playing the game, there's only one way to do that, and that's to start the season. I say all this to say the Yankees are fine. I haven't really talked about it, but obviously Juan Soto leaving for the Mets, it sucked. It sucked for a couple of days, and then we went out there and we just got everyone we needed. We got Devin Williams, that's our closer. You get Cody Bellinger, that's your center fielder. You get Paul Goldschmidt, that's your first baseman. You get Max Fried, that's your second ace. Like, the Yankees did everything that they needed to do and more. They did everything that they needed to do and more. And I honestly can't wait for the season to start. I think it's a balanced team. It's obviously not having the shiny new toy that was Juan Soto, because obviously Juan Soto is a generational talent. But also remember this, Juan Soto now has to hit in front of Francisco Lindor. I mean, Mark Viento. Like, come on. It's uncomparable to when he was hitting in front of Judge. Honestly, he's still going to do great. I don't wish anything ill on him. I do hate the fact that he was greedy. That's what bothers me. The fact that he betrayed us for greed. It was pure greed. But regardless, I think we're fine. I think the Yankees will be fine. And I believe we'll be seeing the Yankees back in the World Series. Will we win? I don't know. I haven't seen a Yankees World Series win in a long time. So, actually never, because I was in kindergarten, literally just starting kindergarten when they won in 2009. So, yeah. Make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Let me know down in the comments below, what do you think about the Yankees? What do you think about the MLB season? Drop down your predictions below and tell me how you like this standing setup. But I'm out. I'm done. Peace, everybody.